In today's show, let's talk about the best Trailblazers win of the year, coming back to beat the Bulls and showing that they're capable of a little resiliency. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and now also on YouTube. If you're listening to this show right now, or if you're watching on YouTube, and you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button or go to YouTube right now, search Locked On Blazers and subscribe to the show. If you're a first-time listener and you didn't know we're on YouTube, surprise. If you're a long-time listener and just haven't subscribed, go do it. Don't put it off. Do it today. Today's show, we are talking all about the Blazers' impressive and important, probably their most important win of the season, certainly their best win of the season for my money, a 112-107 win over the Chicago Bulls on Wednesday night at the Moda Center. The Blazers improved to 7-1 at home, and they're 8-8 overall. They are a really good home team. This was their best win of the year. We're going to talk all about it. I want to talk about a great Larry Nance game. I want to talk about a closing lineup that seems to be a trend, a comfort level for at least against certain matchups for Chauncey Billups, and a night where the Blazers didn't get it from their two best players and still found a way to win, and why that matters. But first, how about the fastest recap in the West? The Blazers win 112-107. And it started the way all of these games seem to start nowadays, 15-6. And less than 5 minutes in the game, Chauncey Billups is taking a timeout because his team has come out flat and is already threatening to fall behind by double digits. Blazers trailed 33-24 after one, and then fell behind by as many as 20 points during a brutal second quarter. And it looks like they were going to be put to bed early. In the first half, Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum combined for 6 points on 1 of 10 shooting, and all 6 of those points belonged to Damian Lillard because CJ McCollum, a scoreless first half. On the other side, Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, 33 points on 14 of 21 shooting in the first half. The Bulls stars were just so much better than the Blazers stars. But then the second half happened. It didn't happen all at once. The Bulls, even 4 minutes into the second half, were still up 17. At the 8:14 mark, they were still up 17, 4 minutes in the second half. It didn't go away right away, but the Blazers found a way to get it done. When Damian Lillard hit a pull-up three-pointer with 7 minutes and 43 seconds left, the Blazers had completed the comeback. Not all the way, but they completed it, tied the game at 91 with just under 8 minutes to go, 7:43 left in the game. But the Bulls never went away. They fell behind by as many as 6 when Jusuf Nurkic got loose for a dunk for a sidelines out-of-bounds play where two guys went to the ball, and Nurk found himself wide open under the rim. And the Bulls even took back the lead after falling behind by 6 on a Zach LaVine layup with 1 minute and 20 seconds left. And it was on from there. Damian Lillard drives to the rack and gets fouled, hits both free throws to put the Blazers up. And the Bulls go to their bread and butter, DeMar DeRozan, who had been so damn good in that second quarter, in that first half, but particularly in that second quarter, just getting whatever he wanted, floating in the mid-range and doing what he does, going to work. And Nazir Little stood him up from 17 feet, contested him, made the shot hard, and DeMar DeRozan came up short. Larry Nance grabs the rebound, gets fouled, hits 2 free throws, and the Blazers are up 3, only to have Zach LaVine, with under 20 seconds left, get a wide open look at a 3. Zach LaVine went 7 of 12 from 3, and one of his 4 misses was unguarded chance to tie it in the final seconds. He misses the mark when Nazir Little got caught up into the Tony Bradley screen. That's Tar Heel on Tar Heel crime. Blazers get the rebound. Nas hits a couple free throws, and they go home happy, 112-107. That's your fastest recap in the West. little slower than normal. That's a classic normalist recap in the West. Blazers win, and this was their best win of the year. We'll talk about it in a moment. Larry Nance, 16 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a block off the bench. Dame finished with a team high 22, 6 of 18 though, 3 of 9 from the floor. CJ McCollum, just a not a very good CJ night, a straight up bad one. 4 of 14, 1 of 5 from 3, finished with 9 points and 5 dimes. 18 from Yusuf Nurkic and 12 boards. He was really good. More on him in a moment. Norman Powell, 18, hit 2 threes, crucial ones in the second half. Robert Covington, 10 points, 3 boards, 3 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. Good Cov night, but didn't play down the stretch. 22 from DeRozan, 0 of 7 in the second half. After a monster first half, DeMar DeRozan, 0 of 7. In the second half, he was 7 of 12 at halftime, getting whatever he wanted. Zach LaVine had 30, should have had 33 in this game, probably should have gone to overtime, or at least the Blazers should have had a chance to win it with their own shot at the end of regulation. But LaVine misses, and the Blazers win just a damn great game, a great basketball game. I thought this team was cooked in the first half. Thought they were just straight up cooked. We've seen them on the road give up. Just kind of pack it in, go to bed early. When they've struggled, it's just when they fall behind big, they just don't have a chance to come back. They haven't had the grittiness, they haven't had the stick-to-itiveness, they haven't had the resiliency, all those things you need to come back from a big deficit. 20 is not what it used to be made of in the NBA. The way teams shoot threes, the pace of the game, and all those things. Like 20 is probably the new like 15-point lead or 12-point lead or something. Like down 20 in the first half is not over, but we've just seen this team kind of roll over. And I asked Dame after the game what he appreciated about it, and part of what he appreciated about this game is that they kind of fought and they just went ahead and did it. After the game, Jason Quick kind of was joking with Chauncey Billups. So what'd you say at halftime? And Billups, he said he didn't yell a lot. He just said, this is unacceptable and we can be better than this. And asking the players a kind of follow-up questions of what Chauncey was like. He didn't yell. In fact, Dame says it was a shorter halftime speech than normal. Typically, they look at some offensive clips and some defensive clips, like he put up some video on the board and say, here's what we did wrong, here's what we did right, here's here's what we can clean up to be better in the second half, particularly when you're losing. Here's on both sides of the ball, some things we can clean up. And then they go back out there, and Dame said it ended about 3 minutes earlier than normal. Usually when there's 5 minutes left on the clock, they walk back out to the court. But he said it was over at about 8-minute mark. With 8 minutes left, like Chauncey had just said his piece. Like, we know we can be better. They're getting it too easy. If we want to be the team we can be, we can't let them go get it easy. And they didn't. They made it tough on them. And DeMar DeRozan in the second half, 0 for 7, is like kind of a microcosm of the Blazers just being more physical and more attentive. The Bulls got into what they wanted to get into. DeRozan made some shots in the second half, or made some shots in the first half that he didn't make in the second half. Like, he missed some makeable ones. But and Zach LaVine pretty much got what he wanted most of the evening, getting loose. But they were more physical and more attentive. The Bulls bench, they're already a little light on depth, and then no Nikola Vucevic in this game. And the Bulls bench couldn't hang with the Blazers depth. The Blazers bench didn't have like an awesome game. This was Nazir Little had about as good a game as you can have, going 1 of 7. He had 6 points and 7 boards and played in crunch time. We'll talk about him at the end of the show, but like, this wasn't a good Simons game. 6 points on 1 of 3 shooting, didn't hit his threes. His bucket was a driving left-handed layup though. So shout to Ant, but like this wasn't a game where like the Blazers depth that took over was Nas and Nance off the bench, and they handled the Bulls, who didn't have a ton of depth. But like, really, this was about slowing down the Bulls stars who got going and just like playing with the requisite effort to slow them down. It wasn't all effort, and it was some of it was schematic, like just like where they picked them up. There was much higher pickup points. They fought harder on the screens. Like, it was this was, as opposed to sort of like letting the guys snake and then trying to contest mid-rangers, they really chased them and made it a little bit harder to get over that first screen action. Like, there was some statistical, or some strategic is the word I'm looking for, some like true strategery, to quote a former president. So like, this was a fantastic second half, really, really special second half. The most impressive win of the young season, and it was most impressive win because they were down. Like, they smoked the Suns to open the year, right? Like, and that's like, we're gonna look back maybe in April or whatever and say like, damn, the Blazers really just beat the snot out of this Suns team early in the year, and they absolutely carved them up. And that's still going to be their best win early in the season. But this to me was their most important and most impressive because they came back when they looked like they were buried. And we've seen this team buried and gone this year, and they kind of they don't always come back. They used to be a signature of theirs. And I think tonight, and same with kind of the Raptors game where they dug in and stuck with it after a slow start. The slow starts are a problem, but like digging in and sticking with it against teams that are competitive. Like the Bulls are one of the good teams in the East, even missing Nikola Vucevic, and the Raptors are going to compete for a playoff spot. Like those are quality wins at home, and they showed some real resiliency. But the star of this game was the man who heard his name cheered, heard that name cheered in the Moda Center. Larry. Let's talk about Larry Nance in the second segment. But before we do that, let me tell you about BetOnline. It's the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. They got a new updated website and interface at betonline.ag. You can access it on your mobile phone. You can access it on your desktop. And while you're there, if you want to make your first deposit as a first-time customer, make sure you're using the promo code LOCKEDON because you'll get a 50% welcome bonus when you're making that first deposit. You can bet on basketball games. They got live props and odds on every single game. They got the same deal for football, college, and pro. They got every other sport too. So whatever you're into, you're going to find action at betonline.ag. They even got your favorite Vegas casino games. Whatever it is, don't wait. Go take advantage of this offer. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. And I usually do this in the third segment, but I guess we're doing it here too. We talked to the win over the Bulls, 112-107. We mentioned Larry Nance, but now we got to talk about Larry because he was ballin'. He has settled into figuring out how he's going to be an impact player. And after Nasir Little stopped DeMar DeRozan with 17 seconds left and held up in the closing seconds against DeMar, and the Blazers got to corral the rebound. Larry Nance grabs it. He heads to the free throw line, and he hears his name chanted. The Blazers faithful. Inside Moda Center. I thought this was one of the best crowds of the year. I pointed this out to Jason Quick on press row during the game. It was fuller than it's been. It's been a little empty in the arena, and still not a sellout, but a bunch of people, 17,000 strong, and it was loud and like good energy. Like it was a very good crowd. If you were lucky enough to be there, you witnessed a wonderful game with a wonderful crowd. I guess people are coming back to NBA games now, but 17,000 and change chanting Larry. I don't know who predicted it, but someone in my Twitter feed had said early in the year, it's a straight up guarantee that we hear the Larry chants, and they were right. It came. Faux show killer. Larry got his name chanted, and after the game, he talked about sort of what it meant to hear his name, and then he shared a great story about the last time he could recall hearing his name chanted. So I'm going to play a little bit of that for you now. Here's what Larry said about hearing his name in the Moda Center.
Could I hear him? Yeah, I could hear him. I think I had my mask on. I was trying not to smile too hard. No, that was incredible. That was incredible. You know, like it's only game 16 here, so you know, I appreciate it more than they know. I genuinely do, because you know, we're out there playing our hearts out and had a heck of a comeback. So, you know, the fact that they recognize you know, heart and hustle of this team is awesome, and you know, I can promise that they're going to get that from me every single time I step on the floor.
You have a pretty chantable name.
I do. The 2 syllables is pretty good. Yeah.
Has that happened to other stops?
Wyoming. Yeah, happened at Wyoming, but you know, Cleveland not really. Cleveland on occasion, maybe you go to the free throw line after having a good game, they might have done it, but LA no. But the last time was Wyoming that I really remember. Yeah.
When was that?
At Wyoming?
Yeah, take us back.
The exact game? Yeah. We were playing, I could do it. We were playing UNLV. Hey, it's a good story too.
My man.
So bear with me. We were playing UNLV at home, and Christian Wood, was that team with him, Patrick McCaw. Christian Wood had the first 17 points, right? So we were down early. and we battled back. Me and him had a slugfest, right? Like I think I finished with 29. He had 29 as well. But like down the stretch, I had finished, closed the game for us. And with like 30 seconds left, you know, they were chanting my name and everything like that. And it was very cool. And then, you know, so there's distinct memories, but this is one that I'm, you know, ask me the last time they chanted my name in 4 years. I'll be able to tell you this story word for word too. So it meant a lot to me.
That's right. You got to take it all the way back to Wyoming. Beautiful Laramie, Wyoming. Go Cowboys. Larry also repping his little brother, Pete, who goes to Northwestern. That's the jersey he's wearing in that video. Nance was, 16, 9, 3 assists, 3 steals and a block, 6 of 9 from the floor, hit 2 of 3 threes. He was plus 10 in a game the Blazers won by 5. Like he's really settled into what this is. And part of settling in is that he's just going to be a backup 5. Chauncey Billups talked about it in the post game. Is like he was, he's just more comfortable playing Larry as a 5 now. He kind of sees him that way. And at the beginning of the year, Nance, talked about, and we talked about it here, is like he just didn't know where he fit in. And it felt like that. Watching him play, particularly next to Zeller, is like he just didn't know where he's going to fit in. And he mentioned, and Nance mentioned this, and a part I didn't play for you in that interview, is like, that it's not a subtle difference between playing the 4 and the 5. If you're the 5, you're playing 5 coverages on defense, and on offense, you're really just spacing. Like if you watch like how Robert Covington plays, he spaces and kind of dances around the perimeter, and when they set a screen, he kind of role replaces when filling in the gap where the pick and roll came from. And Larry can do that, but it doesn't utilize his skill set very well. He's just better as a screener and a decision maker out of the screen and roll, and a guy who can dive to the rim and crash the boards and cut and hang around the paint, hang around in the dunker spot around the rim. Like Larry Nance had one of his bad misses today is he took a little kind of like push hook from the right block with his feet outside the paint. That's garbage, Larry. Only shoot when you have your feet in the paint or feet set outside the 3-point line. And he can make a darn good living only taking those 2 kind of shots, like 2 feet in firmly in the paint or feet set behind the 3-point line, shoulder square, like only catch and shoot threes and only shots, like only little push hooks and layups around the rim and dunks. Like he can have a really, really like math friendly shooting chart, and he's going to be a monster. He's just really settled into being a 5. There's some complications with him being the 5. One, Cody Zeller. I think Cody Zeller's minutes are going to get pinched, like maybe just not exist anymore. Zeller played just 4 minutes tonight, and I wouldn't be surprised if in the near future, like depending on foul trouble, even Saturday's game against Philly, that Cody Zeller just straight up doesn't play. They're getting some minutes from Snell. Not a particularly good Snell game tonight, but like they're liking the smaller minutes from Snell and the floor spacing he gives you. And Larry is a 5. Like it's established. Larry is he's just more comfortable at that spot. And Billups kind of figured out that that's where he's going to fit. And Nance, to his credit, I don't think he really understood where he was going to fit. And now that he knows kind of what 4 and what 5 are, and he mentioned the not subtle differences, like he's more comfortable probably as a small ball 5. He thinks he can play both spots, but that's what players say because they think they can play everywhere. And Billups kind of said, oh, he's a basketball player. He can play wherever too. But like both of them in while trying to walk around it, both admitted very plainly that Larry Nance is the backup center and he's best as a 5. And he's so good at that, at being the 5, being a center, which he truly, truly is. And he's really talented at it. He's also really fun. That's why I played you that interview. Larry Nance is very compelling. Like it means that there's a minutes crunch and there's a primetime crunch. Let's talk about that primetime crunch in the final segment to close the show, because there's just, if Larry Nance is going to close games as he has the last 2 nights against Toronto and then tonight against Chicago, it means that Yusuf Nurkic isn't on the floor. And if he's not on the floor, it complicates things. So let's talk about those complications, or at least the implications, in the third segment of what Larry Nance, being a baller, means to the other folks on the roster. Still a pass first point guard, still Mike Richmond, still listening to Locked On Blazers. I guess we're doing pass first point guard every segment. Every segment we're getting a pass first point guard lead in. In any case, we talked about Larry Nance and him as a small ball center, but the implication, if you have him at center, means you do not have Jusuf Nurkic on the floor, because what I'm kind of was alluding to in that second segment was like, Billups does not see Nance as a 4. And if he isn't a 4, he can't really share the court with Nurk. And if you can't share the court with Nurk, you're making a choice, Nance or Nurk. And I had talked about this in the lead up to the season, there was a possibility. In fact, when Casey Holdall joined the show prior to the season, or like a game into the season, very early, I asked him, do you think Nurk will close games? Because we both had considered what is Larry Nance's skill set and the switchability and the ability to play small and pass and shoot a little bit. Does that make him more desirable in closing lineups? Like, that was a real question we had. And as we get here, game 16, we're now 16 games into the experiment. It's looking like Billups, at least in a lot of matchups, many matchups, unless you have a true 5 in there, is going to roll with Nance, because if it's not a big punishing 5, like even if it's Tony Bradley, with all due respect to the national champion of the University of North Carolina, like, I'm scared of Tony Bradley. Like, you can just roll with Nance because of his skill set. I will say this though, and we need some context here. Jusuf Nurkic was the Blazers' leading rebounder and leading scorer in the first half. He scored the Blazers' first 6 points, and he was helping them keep them afloat on a nights when their other two stars, or their 2 stars, Damian and CJ, could not make anything. Those dudes go 1 of 10 in the first half, and Nurk outscored the 2 of them combined. But then he comes out about 6 minutes into the half, like a typical sub point, and he did not come back in until the 10-minute mark of the fourth quarter. Like, he sat for a full 8 game minutes, which isn't totally uncommon. Usually he would come back in slightly earlier than that, but that's like but there have been games when he sits all the way to about the 9-minute mark. He didn't play a single minute in the fourth quarter against the Raptors, because the Raptors played super small and he couldn't take advantage of them. But he was balling in this game. He checked back in at the 10-10 mark of the fourth quarter, and he played for the next 9 minutes. And Jusuf Nurkic kicked ass in the fourth quarter. Like, don't get it twisted. Great rebounds, great screen setting, scored inside, took advantage of Derek Jones Jr. being on him. Hi, Derek. Welcome back. You've got Nurk on you. He's 280 pounds. Good luck. Like, Nurk was really, really good. I thought he played good defense in the fourth quarter, even against the speed and the sort of the worst defensive possessions of the fourth quarter were after Larry Nance got back on the court, and a couple of bad transition defensive plays. But like, Nurk was good. And then with 90 seconds left, minute 36, I think, on the clock, they had a really big defensive possession coming up, and they just Chauncey pulled Nurk, and Nance played. That's the decision you're making, because Nance is like very specifically a 5, right? Like, because it seems like he's best there. It's true, he's best there. It's been an observation I've been making for a couple of weeks, but now, like, the coach basically said as much today, this evening. And so, like, here we are. And you close the game with Nance on the court. He has some really nice possessions. He'd been really good in this game. And when he came back for the final 90 seconds in crunch time, the Bulls take the lead, and then the Blazers hold on from there, get a couple stops. He gets a huge rebound late, hits 2 huge free throws. It was a great Larry game. And here's his name cheered as we talked about in the second segment. Like, this was a really, really good Larry game. But a really good Larry game, now and moving forward, means it's not going to be a Nurk game. If he's a 5, he's taking Nurk's minutes. And quite frankly, in the post-game, Jusuf Nurkic did not sound super jazzed about not playing at the end of games. He said the right things, like the thing he wants to do is win, but like, in terms of comfortable and liking his role, he did not sound like someone who was super jazzed about sitting the entire fourth quarter and then playing damn well and still getting yanked with 90 seconds left in the game. He did not sound like someone who would enjoy that. Who would, but like, I'll just say, like, this situation the momentum is pointing in a direction where Jusuf Nurkic is going to be pissed about his role. He was promised more and he's getting less. He's promised a bigger slice of the pie and more role this season. And it's shaking out that the Blazers are better maybe where he isn't in the crunch time lineup. And that is it's nice to have the solutions. It's nice to have a coach that can understand the matchups and quickly pull the right strings. But ego management is a part of it, and personality management is a part of it. And I'm telling you, Yusuf Nurkic didn't sound happy in the post game. Just something to monitor. I don't think this is like a big deal, but it's something to monitor. One more thing about the closing lineup is that Nazir Little, for the second straight night, also came in and closed. He was already in. There wasn't some big sub, but like he stayed on the court. He was part of that closing group. Now they've closed the last two games with Dame, CJ, Norm, Nazir Little, and Larry Nance. The length of Nazir Little is helpful, and straight up, I think Nazir Little might be a better point of attack defender than Robert Covington. Robert Covington is a better overall defensive player, but what they need from that spot is someone with length, someone with size to guard like the DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine type, or like the one who Norm isn't guarding. So if Norm takes one, someone has to take the other. And that's not Rocco's skill set. He's a slow feet, fast hands, extremely fast brain. Like, he can be a really good help defender, but when you put him in the action, when you put him in point of attack, it not only neuters his best skill, it shows what his weakness is as a point of attack defender. I really do believe Chauncey Billups is more comfortable with Nazir Little as that guy who's going to guard apex wings, who's going to guard big, scary star wing types. Like that seems to be the comfort level of the coach. It seems to be the comfort level. It seems to be a good choice. Like, I think Naz is a good and competitive defender. Like I said, I think Nazir Little had about as good a game as you can have, going 1 for 7 from the floor and 0 for 4 from 3. Like, he had 6 points and 7 boards, and in 24 minutes. And I think he was like really good watching him. I thought he was like the energy, the rebounding, just making life hard. I thought he played really physical, got called for a couple fouls that he didn't like, but I thought they were all fouls. But that's good physical defense. I think this closing group, like I talked about in the last podcast, if you haven't listened, it was a recap of the mailbag, but before that, it was a recap of the Raptors game. You can find it in your feed. We talked all about this kind of Naz and Nance group and what it would mean and all these things. And like, eventually, maybe a change to the starting lineup is coming, but I think the change to the closing lineup, a potentially more important group, is already here because Billups has a comfort level, because you get what you need with that group. And what I mean by that is you get your stars. Dame and CJ are going to play, book it. Norm's going to play too, book it. Like those three gentlemen are almost, unless something very strange happened, Norm's going to be on the court, and the other two are going to be on the court unless they're hurt. So you're really talking about 2 spots in the closing lineup just because of the way politics and money and skill works. Those guys are going to play. So you're making decisions at the 4 and the 5. And I think unless it's a really specific Nurk matchup, I think a lot of nights, if not most nights moving forward, many, and I'm going to guess the majority, it seems like it's going to be Nance because of the switchability on defense, because of the sort of faster decision-making on offense and the ability to handle the ball a little bit and add a little versatility on both ends. And I think Naz may have supplanted Rocco as that closing 4 because of his ability, the ability to switch. So you can switch everything 1 through 5, and both Nance and Naz can freely switch through all those positions. You don't really want Naz on centers, but if you're switching everything, you don't worry about that. And he's not, only certain centers are really going to bully him. Like, again, Tony Bradley is not going to bully Naz. And the Bulls closed super small, so it wasn't even a problem against the Bulls. And the Raptors play without a traditional center. So like these 2 specific matchups were okay to go small, right? Like didn't matter. So I think the choice, and I think we're seeing it from Chauncey, is this is the lineup he prefers. And again, you're really only making a decision about 2 guys. And if Larry can't play 4, or they view him as best at a 5, is the way I should say it. He can play 4, but to get the most out of him, to maximize what he brings, you play him at the 5. And I agree. He looks better at that spot. He's just straight up better at that as a 5. then you're choosing Nance over Nurk, or you're choosing Nance or Nurk every night. And then you're choosing, it seems like the choice, if you need a point of attack defender with that group, is, or like a guy who can stick on a big wing, that Nas makes more sense right now than Covington, because while Covington's a better way better shooter, Nas brings you a better rebounding, more athleticism to like get out and run, and is probably a better straight up like action coming right at him, point of attack defender, a better option to just stick him on DeMar DeRozan than Rocco has proven to be. In certain other schemes, Rocco is better as an overall defender. Rocco is better, but for what that lineup needs and what that specific task is going to be at crunch time, I think Nas is going to be better. And I think a lot of nights Nance is going to be better than Nurk. And tonight, Nurk was damn good, and still was probably not the right option to close the game when you needed sort of a specific types of guys in the final 90 seconds. I kind of think we know what crunch time looks like for these Blazers now, 16 games in. Usually about the 20 game mark is, you kind of know what teams are. And we're approaching that, less than a week away. Like, next, basically by Thanksgiving, I think we're at the 20 game mark. Blazers have a little time off. So I believe it's the day after Thanksgiving is the 20 game mark. So like, we know what it's going to look like. I think it'll be, I kind of love, this is the part of basketball I love, is learning how teams work and how the parts work and all this stuff. Like, this was the best win of the year, the most impressive and most important win of the year. And in part because they looked like they were cooked and it was time to go home. And they hung in there. And then they showed you a little bit of an identity, both as a gritty team and as a team that prefers to play a certain way. I think this was a game where we learned some stuff about this group, and they won. You can learn in a loss, but for you, dear listeners, it's more fun to learn in a win. So listen, Saturday, Philly, not certain about what Joel Embiid's availability will be, but Philly is on a skid. I believe they've lost 5 in a row as of this recording. So they're going to be looking to get back on track, and the Blazers are going to be looking to improve to 9-1 at the Moda Center, where they've won 8 consecutive games. Listen, for 8-8, this team's been pretty darn entertaining. So why don't you hop on board the podcast and tell your friends to do the same? Subscribe to the YouTube channel and tell your friends to look for us wherever they get podcasts, as well as YouTube. Just search Locked On Blazers and then subscribe to the show wherever that is, but then also subscribe on YouTube regardless, even if you're a podcast listener. Friday show. This one's coming out. It's after midnight, so it's technically already Thursday, but this is Thursday show. Friday show. That's coming out Friday, November 19th. Jason Quick of The Athletic is going to join the show. He's going to update us on whatever's going on behind the scenes with the front office. We're going to talk basketball. He knows he's as good as it gets about covering this team, so do not miss it. Make sure you come back. This podcast free wherever you get podcasts, as well as YouTube, 5 days a week. Make it part of your daily routine, and then tell your friends to do the same. Appreciate listening. Talk to you soon.